Hello, I'm Kats, and welcome to today's video. So today we're going to be doing another episode of free-to-play champion showcase, and the champion for this video is going to be the lovely Elva Autumnborn, as voted by you guys, my lovely viewers, in my latest poll on the champion that you would like to see in the showcase. So Elva Autumnborn is an extremely strong legendary support magic affinity who is just an all-around good healer, cleanser, and reviver for your squad. But of course, you guys probably already know that, but nonetheless, let's go through her kit really quickly. On the A1, attacks one enemy, will place a continuous heal on the ally with the lowest HP. Could be herself, could be someone else. So this provides a nice heal for the ally that needs it the most. On the A2, this is her bread and butter ability here. It's a full cleanse. Notably, it has a chance of cleansing, so you do have to book her to actually get it to 100% chance, which is weird, but nonetheless, that is how it is written. But full cleanse there, and then it will place block debuffs and increase speed on allies for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown when booked. Yeah, again, you do want to book her fully for across all of her abilities. Last but not least, on the A3, she has a single target revive here, 40% HP, 50% turn meter, and then she places the big version of increased defense and increased attack on the ally for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. So a relatively low cooldown single target revive as well. Then when it comes to the passive, she has the same passive as like Siphi in Seal the Drake, so she will heal each ally at the start of their turn by 10% of their max HP. And then one thing I drastically underestimated when she first came out is that this second part here, where she places a perfect veil for 1 turn on the ally with the lowest HP at the end of her turn. So at the start of her turn, when she does the A1, she gets puts a continuous heal out there, but at the end of her turn, she veils whoever's the lowest HP. So they're protected a little bit. So when you're dealing with a single target type engagement, it can be really difficult to focus on who you want to, because she's constantly veiling them as long as she's alive. Could be herself, could be whoever happens to be the lowest at the end of her turn. Then to top it all off, we do have a speed in all battles aura by 19%. Now, in terms of a build for Elva, this is what you would ultimately strive for in the long term as you approach late game, or go through the mid game, approach the late game, and into the end game. 9-piece protection set. But I would say that typically you kind of want stats over sets, just because, you know, it doesn't really matter if she's a 9-piece protection if she is 150 speed with no HP or defense, because she's not going to be a reliable tank. But if you can kind of find the best of both worlds across all of the gear pieces and make the stats work in some serviceable way relative to whatever you need her to be or whatever you need her to do on your account, then you can make some concessions to have her in the 9-piece protection set. So if we go through my pieces, I tried to not make any concessions when I built her, so I was waiting a very, very long time. She's been in 6-piece protection for the longest time, but within the past month or so, I was able to get the 9th piece, or I guess pieces 7 through 9, onto her, or into her build. So on the banner here, we have a resistance banner. Not the best, has some defense rolls, some HP rolls, and a little bit of speed, and that's why I haven't ascended the speed, just because I would like to long-term get a better banner, but nonetheless, it's resistance, so I'm not complaining all that much, and she's plenty fast, as we'll see in a little bit here. On the amulet, we have an HP amulet with the double roll and resistance. On the ring, we kind of have the perfect setup where it's a defense ring or HP ring, either one kind of works, but double defense, double HP with some HP as well, so this is kind of a forever ring unless I happen to get a 6-star equivalent piece, but nonetheless, this is kind of where this one's going to sit. On the boots, we have speed with triple roll and resistance and ascension on HP. Pretty much perfect HP, defense, speed, and resistance. On the chest, we have a triple speed roll with some resistance on a defense percentage chest, and then that is paired with some HP percentage on the gloves that are double speed and resistance. Rip on the attack, unfortunately, but hey, it's close enough. We get HP and a defense split so that she's tanky. You can build her double HP, you can build her double defense, depending upon what you want to go for, but I think kind of having the mix of both kind of helps more so for PvE content. At least that's where I'm using her, and majority of the time we'll talk about all alternative builds that you could use if she's more of a PvP focus on your account. On the shield here, we got speed resistance, some defense and HP, perfect piece, more or less. Speed resistance on the helmet, a little bit of accuracy, but we don't really care about that. And then on the weapon, lots of speed, a little bit of resistance, and some HP once again. So all of that culminates into her total stats that are as follows: 76,000 on the HP, 4.7k on the defense, 306 on the speed, and then and 571 on the resistance. I think you probably want to target at least 450 resistance if possible for most PvE content, but if you're pushing her up and through kind of the higher levels of Ultra Nightmare Chimera, for example, then you're going to want to push it to 550 plus, give or take. But again, compare that to what you need her to do on your account and other such things. Now, I did mention alternative builds for her. I do think 9-piece protection is kind of the ultimate PvE build, but I do see a lot of Elva in PvP. So most people go with either 2-turn Stone Skin or 1-turn Stone Skin and something else. You could go Relentless in Stone Skin, which is a fairly powerful combination. You could go Stone Skin and Supersonic. You could go the new Mercurial set and Stone Skin. So there's a lot of different options for you. I guess 9-piece Mercurial could work as well, but I don't think single target revivers are the best for that particular set. But then again, who knows? That meta is still kind of unfolding and developing as we go along here. In terms of a relic, I do run a golden elixir on my Elva. I don't think this is necessarily the best relic for her, but it is one that is nice, and that when she happens to get below 50%, she'll heal herself on top of the all healing she already has in her kit. So it just kind of helps her be a little bit more tanky. However, I'd probably opt for like a perched shadow if I had a third one. I currently do not, but just a chance to get some extra turns whenever she uses her A1, because it'd be nice to have a relentless set alongside protection, but 9-piece protection again is just the ultimate goal for PvE. So getting extra turns from the relic would be handy in that regard. In terms of the blessing, I have her at 3 stars, just got lucky for her soul, but I have the Nourish blessing on her, so that it increases the value of the heal of continuous heals placed by herself, and then also continuous heals placed by her can restore destroyed max HP, so she can be useful in situations where bosses or enemies destroy your max HP. Then when it comes to the mastery, she is once again optimized around a PvE style of build, so we're opting or indexing into her healing capabilities as well as her defensive and resistance capabilities. So resistance here, we're going through delay death, take less damage, resurgent, remove debuffs, retribution does her A1 does, or her passive on the A1 placing continuous heals does work on counterattack, so that can be a sneaky way to heal whoever needs it. Ending on unshakable for the extra resistance. Again, my focus is to have her be high resistance so that she can maintain whatever she needs to do in PvE, but you could also opt for timely intervention, which can give you a bit of turn meter when people die, and she is a reviver, of course. And then we're getting basically everything on the left hand side of the support tree for all of the healing type stuff, ultimately ending on lasting gifts. And we definitely want Spirit Haste, but Lore of Steel is also nice because the protection set does give you a nice amount of stats. So yeah, PvE is the name of the game for my Elva, and generally speaking, I do think that's kind of her best niche. Single target, again, revives in PvP are workable, but not always the best depending upon the situation. But like I said, I do see Elva a decent amount in the arena. But one of my primary use cases on my account is for my Ice Golem team. So this is my Ice Golem team in all of its pay-to-win glory. But Elva used to be, or her slot used to be Pythion for the same role, kind of the passive healer with the with Pythion's A1. The cleansing heals a little bit, and then he has the AoE revive as needed. But Elva just worked a little bit better because she provides the healing every time anyone takes a turn, so it's just a little bit more consistent, even though we're sacrificing the potential to AoE revive, but we're reducing the chances that people die. Anyways, I digress. Let's go ahead and run this team as an example, just so you can kind of see her in action. She's kind of the engine running beneath the entirety of the team whilst everyone else does their stuff. And you'll see here that we're going to have a lot of protected buffs because, of course, the protection set at 9 pieces has a 75% chance of protecting your buffs, and she does provide a significant amount of buffs, and so that applies to everything that she provides. It could be the continuous heals, could be the veils, could block debuffs, increase speed, the decrease attack when she revives people. So any and all of her buffs right there, you can see protected veil, protected continuous heal. One thing to note there is if everyone's health is the same, in this case it is, whenever her passive procs, she's going to put it on the lead champion for the team. In that case, this is herself, so that's why she's veiling herself in the situation, because everyone is basically full health. Now, I did do a deep dive a long time ago about the build of this particular team, or the style of team, where we're running Harima in the squad because of her passive. It does work against bosses. That way, even if we get unlucky with a run where the boss tries to counterattack with both minions alive, he does not ignore all of our defense. He only can ignore 50% because of Harima's passive, so that's kind of her primary purpose on the team. It's just to make sure that this team is basically 100% success. However, Harima is, of course, a really solid DPS, so she can also help us do damage on the waves. And the rest of the team is basically HP burn and activation. So you don't necessarily have to run, Gizmak, or you don't necessarily have to have mythicals and whatnot, but we're just running HP burn with Artak. Of course, he's like the quintessential Ice Golem champion, but Gizmak is just anyone who places and or activates HP burn, and Theodore literally doesn't do anything except activate HP burn when he gets the chance there, as we see there. So that's kind of the basis of the squad. Of course, there are also teams that just run the duo of Artak and Elva together, and that is definitely a way to go if you build a really tanky Elva, kind of similar to mine, but probably even better stats if you want. Then you can still run that duo between Elva and Artak. Between the both of them, you have the healing that she provides, the cleansing to keep your Artak protected, and then he does all of the burning and burn activation, which is good for Ice Golem. Continuing our tour of PvE, let's take a quick look at Hydra. She is an excellent Hydra champion depending upon your needs. In this particular instance, her kit is just nice because she is a cleanser, so she can keep your team free from most of the debuffs, aside from the True Fear, of course. But her veiling passive is quite useful because it can veil people. Typically, it's going to be your DPSs because they're going to take the most damage from reflect damage and just damage general from the bosses. So you can kind of protect one of your allies at a time, or I guess whenever she gets a turn, you can protect them from the True Fear head, the Head of Torment. So we'll do a little bit of the fight. Again, the Ice Golem run kind of showed you how her kit works in this situation, so we're not going to run the entirety of this. We're going to quick battle it pretty soon, but just wanted to show you a little bit of her in like real action here, doing some work against the Hydra clan boss. And again, she's not really going to show up in the stat sheet afterward. Her job is to support and heal the squad and keep the team running, and so she's not going to do a significant amount of damage. She's not built for that purpose, and we don't really care about her capability to do damage. She is a support after all. So unlucky there, we didn't really get the provoke off of Lammasu, who's in a provoke set, notably. But again, yeah, we're not going to see much from her specifically, but it is nice, going into the Head of Mischief, for example, that you're just going to have a lot more protected buffs. So even if he tries to steal them, then nothing gets stolen, and so that's just kind of a good aspect, again, of having the protection set on your Elva if it is possible. But again, it's not really that mandatory. Having her be high resistance and having lightning cage on her or other people, your Mischief tanks can work the same way, just by putting a lot of buffs out there and just protecting whoever needs to be protected. So there you can see there that looks like Wallmaster Tharion took a little bit of damage, and then he got the perfect veil. And so if the Head of Torment had survived, then he'd be free to attack with his AoEs without having to worry about that as much. So that is kind of her passive, helping in to veil people as necessary, which can kind of help a little bit mitigate the Head of Torment. But I don't think that shouldn't be your only way of mitigating the Head of Torment, but it is a way to kind of help with whoever else your primary mode of dealing with the Head of Torment is. In my case, I'm running to Hanorok for that purpose, because whenever she takes a turn, she just cleanses off the True Fears. So because we're already here, I'm going to do a quick battle here. We can run through. This team should make it all the way to 1,000 turns. This team used to be my Nightmare team, but I made a swap between Brutal and Nightmare because my Ninja Mikage Krokad Packmaster team was a lot better at Nightmare in terms of damage. So I just copied my former Nightmare team over to Brutal, and they do 400-ish, and so it's a decent amount of damage. Mostly carried by Marius, of course, but Wallmaster Thorian does about half, a little bit more than half of his damage. Lamasu's in there, again, a provoke set, so she can AoE on the A1, get potentially on some provokes on the Head of Decay, but more importantly, she's in there for the block buffs and then ideally resetting of our DPSs here, the two enemy max HP hitters. Elva, as I stated earlier, is not really a DPS, so a measly 1.7 million there. Tuanark doing a little bit, and then Mishinaki getting a lot of credit for Hex from the enemy max HP hitters. So that is an example of running her in a Hydra team where the protection set once again comes in handy for this style of content. And then last but not least, outside of people who run Titus teams and whatnot, Titus Wixwell teams, Elva is basically one of the most important and or quintessential champions for running a high level Chimera team, for the same reasons we've already talked about, but just showcasing here. This is my team on Ultra Nightmare. It's a Ninja Mikage team, so Ninja's doing all of the damage, Mikage's helping empower him, and Elva's just there doing a lot of things. So in this case, she helps a little bit with the veiling trial on the Ram form, because your DPS is typically going to be the one who's the lowest of health, or the one she's going to be reviving constantly, because of course they're going to be dying to the reflected damage. And so that can help you with the trial to have a Veil on the team. In this case, Ninja of course also provides Veil for himself, but it kind of depends who you're running as your DPS on the team. But alongside Elva, again, in the Ram form, that can help you with some trials. There are also some trials that require you to have increased speed, so she can be one of your increased speed champions. In this case, I'm running Lydia and Nekmothar, so we have it covered no matter what, but nonetheless, it depends upon who you happen to have on your account. She can be one of your increased speed champions. But then, of course, in general, you're going to want some sort of cleanser when it comes to the Viper form. If you want to run a team on full auto, you can risk it going into the Viper form, trusting that the 75% chance will proc across all of the block debuffs and or other important debuffs that you don't want the Viper form to steal from your team. So that can work as well. And then, of course, she is the reviver for the squad. So if and when people die, she can pick them back up. So she's kind of one of the most important Chimera champions if you can get her on your account. And again, the protection set coming in clutch once again to do its job. In terms of other areas that you could use Elva on your account, she can definitely go into basically any dungeon where you need a support or a reviver cleanser type champion. So, if you need help in Dragon's Lair, keep your team alive, Ice Golem we already talked about, Spider's Den if you need to get rid of the poisons, less so in Fire Knight. She's not a multi-hitter, and that's not usually the meta. That's more focused on counterattack, ally attack, but she could still come in handy there. If you need a cleanser for Phantom Shoguns to get rid of the Enfeeble, she can do that job as well. Less so for Phantom Shogun's Grove. I also use her on my Event Dungeon Stage 25 team, which you can see here, and her job basically is just to get rid of the Ensnare after the boss places it on us, and then also having the protection set on prevents your buff's duration from being decreased by the boss's passive, which is kind of somewhat useful, but of course that doesn't happen every single time, but nonetheless is a nice little bonus when it does proc. Faction Wars, obviously she's a cleanser, healer, reviver. She's going to do wonders for you in Faction Wars to keep your team running and alive as needed. Arena, we talked about, you can build her in some sort of stone skin, two-turn stone skin or stone skin combination build. She could definitely be an arena champion, tanking some hits with the stone skin set, and then reviving whoever may have died, or just being an immunity cleanser, so to speak, style of champion. We talked about her in clan boss situations, specifically Hydra and Chimera, not so much a Demon Lord champion. She can be a cleanser for you in Doom Tower, just kind of running you through the waves. She can help you in Curse City as a support as needed. She can work in the same capacity in Siege as she does in the arena. And then when it comes to Grim Force, she can be useful depending upon who you have. I opted to focus mostly on the AoE Reviver, so this is my normal deck here, and you can see that she's not in it, but she is indeed in my hard deck, and so she's there when she's useful when needed, but for the most part I opted for most of my AoE Revivers, so like Galather, my Hilvi, Lady Noelle in some instances, but Kaj of the Rye as well. So she's there, but depending upon the particular stage, I didn't really use her as much as I thought I would, but she's always there just in case, just to add to the stockpile of revivers that are available for usage. So she can help you, definitely. I think she's a great champion for the Grim Forest in a vacuum. So there you have it. That's going to conclude the free-to-play champion showcase for the lovely Elva Autumnborn. Let me know in the comment section down below if you are fortunate enough to also have an Elva Autumnborn and how you have her built on your account. Again, I do think that 9-piece protection is the ultimate target and the ultimate goal, but you can also run her in various stone skin iterations depending upon her use case on your account. As usual, after this video goes live, feel free to head on over to my community tab page where you can vote on the poll for the next champion to be featured in the free-to-play champion showcase, because of course all of these champions are decided by you guys, my lovely viewers. As always, if you did find this video helpful, then be sure to hit that like button down below. It really does help out the channel, and feel free to hit the subscribe button down below if and only if you're enjoying the content overall on the channel for more content just like this one in the future. Thanks for watching and have a good one.